This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
The deadly H1N1 virus makes a comeback, taking 4 down already. An APRO in the Chief Minister's office too is infected. Tamil Nadu's men in khaki are ready for scrutiny. Information on their personal assets to be on the web pages of the Home Affairs now. The longest nationwide anti-ragging campaign ends in a last lap at Chennai. Bands draw support with their tunes. There's nothing sweet about the effects of diabetes. We bring you the prevalence of the disease in the city. And we bring you the celebrations from the colourful mosques and cooking pots this Eid ul-Fitr. NDTV Hindu joins in the cheer.
Eid Mubarak, bhai sahab. Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak.
Welcome to News Tonight on NDTV Hindu with me, Evelyn Matthew. The next 30 minutes are power-packed with news from every corner of the city and the nation at large. Let's also bring you the top stories nationally. In what could be a landmark inclusion, the IITs could get postgraduate courses in medicine soon enough. Opener Dilshan may have steered clear, but pacer Fernando may be in for more trouble next. Sri Lankan Cricket Board makes a startling revelation. The capital braces for floods as Yamuna rises well above the danger mark. A disaster management team takes charge. And the tennis ace from Pakistan is denied his maiden Grand Slam title in the mixed doubles by a top-seeded duo. Well, it's that time of the year again when coughs, colds and everything in between need that prompt dose before it gets a little too late. But making a comeback this September is swine flu, the disease that's today a largely urban phenomenon. In fact, even an APRO in the Chief Minister's office has now come down with the flu. NDTV Hindu takes a look at one of the most ignored parts of the city. Those are a potential swine flu tinderbox. The latest deaths come despite a warning from the World Health Organization.
This is the scene on 7 Wells Road, and this is the scene in Vyasarpadi, both in North Chennai. Both localities which have contributed to 2 out of the 7 cases of swine flu reported just in the Government General Hospital in the past 1 month. The cramped living conditions and the filth all around make all North Chennai the perfect playground for the H1N1 virus.
We have identified a separate ward, which is isolation ward we have got for H1N1 patients. And we instruct the relatives, only one relative or at the most 2 relatives only we are allowing.
Today another man, Mohan Velu, a public relations officer with Tamil Nadu government, succumbed to swine flu. Last week, a man in Coimbatore died of the same. Before that, a woman from North Chennai. 4 deaths in 4 weeks.
Already he has been treated in a private nursing home in Triplicate. And he had fever for 10 days, taking some irregular treatment. And he was hospitalized in a private nursing home for a day. And from there he was referred here in a critical condition.
The mayor walked away as NDTV Hindu's reporter tries to ask him about swine flu. Despite such frequent H1N1 deaths, there seems to be no major awareness initiative by the Tamil Nadu government. Despite the WHO warning that swine flu will keep recurring in urban areas, despite moving beyond the domain of being termed a pandemic.
As we enter the post-pandemic period, this does not mean that the H1N1 virus has gone away. Based on experience with past pandemics, we expect the H1N1 virus to take on the behavior of a seasonal influenza virus and continue to circulate for some years to come.
North Chennai may just be the tip of a potential swine flu iceberg in Tamil Nadu. But ignoring smoke signals and brushing dirt under the carpet may only lead to complications when cases start rising more steeply, like it happened in the August of 2009. With Simonish Ramanathan for NDTV Hindu.
Well, the men in khaki have dared to bear, it seems, in an overwhelming response. The Tamil Nadu IPS Officers Association have given a green signal to declare their personal assets and display it on the website of the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is expected to increase the transparency in the entire system. The association has sent a letter of approval to the Central IPS Officers Association for the same. Tamil Nadu alone has over 180 IPS officers, and this approval comes from 95% of them. As of now, data will be collected from every IPS officer regarding details of their assets, which includes movable and immovable property, shares, mutual funds, fixed deposits, bank balances and debentures. Also, anything purchased over 20,000 rupees will require disclosure of reason. And if the information found is misleading or incorrect, then the concerned IPS officer will face departmental action. Now, here's what perhaps a lot of students have been waiting for. The Indian Institutes of Technology, or popularly known as the IITs across the country, will soon introduce new courses in medicine. Well, making that announcement was Education Minister Kapil Sibal, who said that the courses in medicine would be for cross-boundary research, but the Medical Council of India would have to give its approval before the IITs can start giving their own degrees in the subject.
One of the far-reaching decisions was to include medicine, study of medicine in the IITs, which would of course require an amendment to the Act, and we proposed a formulation which was accepted. But we are making sure, and this amendment would be in Section 6, and we're making sure that wherever the instruction leads to a degree relating to any branch of medicine, then of course the clearances from the Medical Council of India under the Act will have to be taken.
Well, with the monsoon just a month away, the mosquitoes in your homes are getting ready for a feast. The Chennai Corporation says it's been doing its bit, surveying open overhead tanks, sending notices to such owners, appointing a 240-strong anti-malaria brigade, getting boats to fight these pests in canals, and a lot more. My colleague Ramanathan managed to pin down the mayor.
கொசுவை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் சென்னையில் வந்து இது ஒரு ப்ரீடிங் டைம் தான். அது பீரியாடிக்கலி அந்த டீசில்ட்டிங் அந்த ஒர்க்லாம் ஆரம்பிச்சிருக்கிறோம். இப்போ நேற்றுக்கு இந்த கோவம் ஓரம் வந்து ஒரு 16 கிலோமீட்டர் லென்த்துக்கு கோவத்தில் குப்பையை இது வரைக்கும் மாநகராட்சி எடுத்ததே இல்லை. தான் ஃபஸ்ட் டைம் நேற்றுக்கு வந்து ஒரு 8.25 டன் குப்பை இருக்குது, அதை எடுக்க ஆரம்பிச்சிருக்கிறோம். இதையும் தாண்டி பொதுமக்களுக்கான விழிப்புணர்வுங்கிற மாதிரி சர்பீட்டியில் ஒரு 4 நாள் முன்னாடி எல்லா அசோசியேஷன், தேட்டர் ஓனர்ஸு, கல்யாண மண்டபம் ஓனருங்க, ஸ்கூல் அந்த இன்சார்ஜ் எல்லாம் கூப்பிட்டு மீட்டிங் போட்டு இப்போ இந்த தேட்டருக்கு பின்னாடி இருக்கிற கழிவுகள் ஹோட்டலில் வந்து அவங்க அந்த இது தேக்கி வச்சுருக்கிற தண்ணி இதெல்லாம் வந்து இது பண்ணுறதுக்கு பொதுமக்களோட இது சேர்ந்து பண்ணுறோம். இது எல்லாமே ஹெல்த் அம்பாசிடர்ஸ்னு எல்லா ஸ்கூலுக்கும் கார்டு தரோம். கார்டு கொடுத்து அந்த வீட்டில் தேவையில்லாமல் உபயோகம் இல்லாத இருக்கிற பொருள்கள்லாம் அழிக்கிறதுக்கு அது பண்ணுறோம். சினிமா தியேட்டர்லேயும் ஹோட்டல்லையும் இந்த கொசு உற்பத்தி ஆகிற இடமா அது மாதிரி இருந்து அவங்க கவனிக்காமல் இருந்தால் அதுக்கு சுகாதாரத்துறை சார்பில் ஃபைன் போடுறதுக்கும் நடவடிக்கை எடுத்துருக்குறோம். அது இல்லாமல் இப்போ ஒரு புதுசாக ஒரு மலேரியாவில் கொசு மருந்து அடிக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு 240 பேர் இந்த வாரத்தில் வேலைக்கு எடுக்கிறோம். ஓகே சார்.
Now, on World Suicide Prevention Day today, the city of Chennai certainly has something to be proud about. The number of suicide cases in the city has drastically dropped down from nearly 2,300 cases, that's in the year 2005, and that's come down to 837 that was reported last year. The founder of SNEHA, the suicide prevention organization, Dr. Lakshmi Vijaykumar, joins us this evening on News Tonight to talk about the cases of suicide in the city. Good evening, ma'am. While these statistics seem like some improvement as compared to before, I know you would agree with that, but I want to ask you, across the gender at least, among men and women, is there a difference at all in the numbers when it comes to suicide, and has there been a rise?
I wouldn't say so. Actually, the Chennai rates are coming down. If you look at 2005, 2006, there were 2,300 suicides in Chennai. But in 2008, it came down to 1,200, 1,300. And 2009, it has come to 837. So the suicide rates in Chennai are coming down, which is very, very good, because about 4 years ago, Chennai was the #1 city to have the highest suicide rate. But in 2008, it slipped down to number 6, and we hope in 2009 it will slip even further. If you look at males, actually, if you look at it, the male, generally all around the world, the male commit more number of suicides than the women, but the ratio is very small in India. The ratio between male and female is 1.4:1, which means that more females in India are committing suicide than the developed countries. But if you look at the age group below 30, it's actually more or less equal number of men and women. But after the age of 30, definitely more men commit suicide than women.
Right, Dr. Lakshmi, but is there a pattern in terms of the reasons you see that really drives, the increasing number of men in our city to such an extreme step?
Generally, if you look at it in India, majority of the suicides are due to family problems. 25% of the suicides are due to family problems, 23% due to illness. But then unemployment, economic hardships, deaths feature more in men's suicide, whereas in women's suicide we have illegitimate pregnancy, not getting married, extramarital affairs, we find more in women.
Well, I know you do this far too often, but today to those listening who may be disturbed with something that's really bogging them down, what's your piece of advice to such people?
I say often that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Majority of the time we go through crisis, and at that point of time we think that life is not worth living. But once the time period passes, many of us are able to cope with the stress and are able to look at different options, and we are able to handle things in life. So often we say that suicide is a temporary problem, suicidal feelings are temporary, and the solutions also can be found, and not to make a permanent decision like to commit suicide for a temporary issue. And the important thing is that many people who have had suicidal thoughts or attempts have come out, have gone to greater heights and have achieved a lot in life. So feeling suicidal is a feeling which we can be overcome, and most of the time it is an independent person's thinking, and that thinking can be changed by another person. So a very warm, affectionate human being can change the mind of a person who is suicidal. So we say that when you are feeling suicidal, express yourself, seek help, talk to somebody who listens with care, who will understand you, and you will feel that you are feeling much better and more able to cope with your problems.
Well, I guess that explains the numbers that have really come down in the city, at least in Chennai, and explains the kind of work that you've been doing. Thanks very much indeed, Dr. Lakshmi Vijaykumar, for joining us tonight. Well, still ahead on the bulletin, joining controversies, looks like even nature is conspiring against the Commonwealth Games. That's coming up in just a moment.